Well, he doesn't have the ability or doesn't have the will to stand the left down.
If it's an obstacle to their power, they're against it. And that category includes both stubborn constitutional amendments like the first and second and sitting presidents.
Well, I regard this whole thing as political theater, and I'm neither a politician nor an actor, so I don't see any role for myself.
This morning, as former President Donald Trump starts to get his defense team in order, Republicans are pushing to delay the impeachment trial for at least 2 weeks, saying Trump needs more time to prepare. Republican leader Mitch McConnell sending this proposal to Democrats, insisting the Senate cannot short-circuit the due process for Trump. But just hours earlier, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi signaled she was ready to hand over that article of impeachment to the Senate.
They've now informed us they're ready to receive. The question is, are there questions about how a trial will proceed? But we are ready. I don't think it's very unifying to say, oh, let's just forget it and move on. That's not how you unify. You're going to get a get out of jail card free because people think we should make nice and forget that people died here on January 6th.
Did you hear that? Did you understand it? No, because it was indecipherable, because it was dumb and insane. And how do people like that get power in this country? Ridiculous people. Good question. This is democracy, so it's important. We ought to be meditating on it.
Meanwhile, folks, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer announcing today that the House will deliver the impeachment article against former President Trump on Monday. Many Senate Republicans and Democrats are also questioning the constitutionality of holding an impeachment trial against what essentially is a private citizen that happens to be the former president.
If it's an obstacle to their power, they're against it. And that category includes both stubborn constitutional amendments like the first and second and sitting presidents. So why is all of this happening? Well, the Democrats have told you for the last month, there's one real reason at the bottom. Nobody is above the law. Now, there are caveats to that, of course. No one is above the law except for anyone who might potentially vote Democrat, in which case laws are racist and must be ignored. You know that. It's pretty amusing.
You have said that you feel like this is unconstitutional. So who rules on that?
Normally, the issue would be initially up to the Chief Justice, because the Constitution says that if a president is tried, the Chief Justice must preside. But there's only one president. His name is Biden, not Trump. And so I don't think that Chief Justice Roberts will agree to preside over the trial of an ex-president, in which case the presiding official is the Vice President of the United States, who's the President of the Senate, who may be running for president in 2024 against Donald Trump. And so the idea that she would be making rulings against her potential campaign adversary for president seems to be inconsistent with conflict of interest rules. So it's a mess. The framers did not intend this. The framers did not intend former presidents to be put on trial. That's why they made no provision for who the presiding official is.
To go back and try to have a trial in the Senate purely for the reasons of making sure that President Trump can't run again for federal office, is that worth potentially jeopardizing this grand unity that President Biden is trying to achieve, or at least says he's trying to?
Well, he doesn't have the ability or doesn't have the will to stand the left down. President Biden could, by picking up the phone, stand down impeachment. He could say to Speaker Pelosi, President Trump is in Florida. I'm ready to move on. It's time for the country to move on. His refusal to do that shows me that he really doesn't have the ability or the willingness to unify us, because that would be a layup. So I believe that Republicans are going to unite strongly around the idea that this is an unconstitutional effort to impeach President Trump, and that in the coming days we will get this trial behind us.
Senator Lindsey Graham, appreciate your time this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the second question will be, can you have a trial, a real trial, just days after the articles have been delivered? As far as I know, the president doesn't have his legal team completely set. Will witnesses be called? Will experts be called? Will there be opportunity first to vote on whether or not the Senate has jurisdiction? Does that require a 50-50 vote? Does it require a 2/3 vote like the rest? These are all questions that have to be answered.
We will do this quickly if the articles come over. It shouldn't be drug out. There's not a whole lot of facts to be discussed. You know what happened. You can make up your own mind. I think the unconstitutional argument is persuasive. I'm hoping a Democrat or two will believe that impeaching a president out of office is bad for the presidency, bad for the country as a whole. So my hope is that if we do get the articles of impeachment, that we move forward quickly. We're not going to do two things at once. We're not going to enact the Biden agenda in the morning, impeach President Trump in the afternoon. If the articles come to the Senate, we will focus on them exclusively. I look forward to making the argument that this is unconstitutional, and we'll see what happens.
The Constitution simply doesn't provide for the trial of a former president. We know that from the Nixon case. Nixon wasn't put on trial after he resigned under pressure. He could have been impeached. He could have been tried. But it never occurred to anybody to do that because that's not what the framers of the Constitution had in mind. And the first question is, who's going to preside? I don't think it's going to be Chief Justice Roberts. I don't think he will agree to preside over a trial of a former president. There is only one president, and his name is not Trump. The trial should not go forward. It's unconstitutional. If I were to be the lawyer, I would simply challenge the jurisdiction and not put it on a defense, because I think any verdict by the Senate will be null and void. Let's assume hypothetically the Senate votes to remove him. He can't be removed. He's already out of office. And to disqualify him. If I were he, I would ignore the disqualification. And if he wants to run for office, run again. Let them then challenge it in court. And then the court would have to decide whether the Senate acted properly. And I'm confident the Senate did not act properly, would not have acted properly if they disqualify him.
If I'm the Trump team, I don't know if you need any witnesses here. My belief is that what the president said at the rally is not incitement under the law, that the people who defiled the Capitol made a conscious choice to do so. They should be held accountable. And the question that needs to be asked of Speaker Pelosi, regardless of the reason people came to the Capitol, how could an unarmed mob 20 years after 9/11 occupy the House and the Senate? That, to me, needs to be talked about a lot, not just during impeachment, but afterwards. How could it be 20 years after 9/11, a group of unarmed people could literally take over the Capitol during a joint session of Congress? I'd like to see what she says about that.
Well, I regard this whole thing as political theater, and I'm neither a politician nor an actor, so I don't see any role for myself.
Senator, some Democrats are accusing Republicans of giving reconnaissance tours to people in the days ahead of the riot there on Capitol Hill.
We saw Congressman Boebert taking a group of people for a tour. Now, whether they were people that were involved in the insurrection or not, I do not know.
These claims are just ridiculous. It's part of a laundry list of conspiracy theories that the Democrats are heavily involved with.
Congresswoman Boebert, Senator Graham says that she was showing family around, and Congressman Cohen, you can barely hear him there, but he says whether these were people that were involved in the insurrection or not, I do not know, yet they're throwing these accusations around.
Yeah, Congressman Cohen from Tennessee has been a very destructive voice in all of this. If I were her, I would sue the guy for slander and make him give a public apology.